one of the supervisors at CASA.
Yes.
I am excited to be here celebrating 35 years. Time flies when we're having fun, as we were saying at our table. It's my pleasure today to tell you about one of this year's May Cook Heart of Gold Award recipients, Nancy Luciani. Unfortunately, Nancy couldn't be here today because she is currently, at this moment, on a plane flying across the Atlantic Ocean. And she teared up when she realized she couldn't make it. She really wanted to be here. In her pre-CASA life, she has done things like working for the United States Marine Corps, raising money for orphans in rural Kenya, and raising 3 now adult children who live spread out all across the country, and who she spends a great deal of time visiting. Family is important to Nancy, and she loves to spend time with them. Nancy's a government contractor by trade, and I remember she was nervous when she first started at CASA because she was worried that not having experience in the child welfare field would be hard for her. But her worries were for naught. She has excelled, and her self-proclaimed numbers brain has lent itself well to the level of detail and organization required for CASA work. Nancy has advocated for 6 children over the course of her 7 years with CASA, donating approximately 1,500 hours of her time and driving over 6,000 miles. In looking back through her annual volunteer evaluations, Nancy's consistently contained words like organized, thorough, persistent, and reliable. But none of those words capture the passion I hear in Nancy's voice when she calls me every Monday like clockwork. Nancy truly embodies what I think of when I hear the term heart of gold. She fights for the needs of the children on her cases as if they were her own children. Nancy and I have worked together for 7 years, and I truly think the secret to her advocacy is her empathy. She's always thinking from the perspective of, how would I feel if these were my kids? I've witnessed firsthand how this allows her to look at situations from different perspectives and to give people a chance. I want to give one example of Nancy's persistence and dedication from her current case. So story time. The 3 children on this case came in almost 6 years ago because of substance use at ages 7 years old, 5 years old, and 2 months old. The 7 and 5-year-old had never been to school or been in any type of classroom environment, and none of them had ever seen a doctor or dentist. Their medical and dental needs were quickly addressed, but their educational needs took a bit longer. While the oldest child immediately began catching up in school, it quickly became apparent that the middle child, we'll call her Bridget, wasn't making up for lost time so easily. During her kindergarten year, Nancy inquired about an IEP, which some of you may know is a legal document securing special education services. She was told by the school that Bridget's struggles were only due to the lack of schooling and that she would catch up soon. By the following year, Bridget had made little to no progress, but she was still promoted to the 1st grade. Nancy asked again that fall about the possibility of an IEP for Bridget and was told again that Bridget would probably catch up on her own. At this point, Bridget was testing as being the level expected for kindergarten first month. The following year, Bridget moved to foster homes, moved to schools, and was promoted to the 2nd grade while still testing at the level of a beginning kindergartner. The pandemic was complicating things further with virtual schooling for a child who could barely recognize her letters. She was falling through the cracks. The school at this point was saying that they couldn't do it because every student was behind after the pandemic. Nancy deftly worked around confidentiality guidelines to subtly ask the right people the right questions and pass the right documents through the social worker until the IEP committee had access to the recommendations from Bridget's developmental pediatrician, her therapist, her tutor, and her psychological evaluation, all calling for IEP services. As Bridget shuffled social workers in schools during this years-long IEP fight, Nancy became the de facto record storage and historical data keeper that allowed the team to show that Bridget was not catching up. At almost 8 years old, she could not identify her letters or letter sounds. In the spring of that year, Bridget finally got IEP services, but Nancy knew it wasn't over. Bridget then moved to a different school in a different state, stalling her progress further. Fast forward, through Nancy attending 10 different IEP meetings, doing her own research into IEPs, speaking to IEP specialists, and passing along information to the new social worker to give to the newly hired legal education advocate, Nancy did not give up. Bridget began the 5th grade this August, still not reading. I remember countless phone conversations where Nancy said, "I just wish we could see some sign of her progress before this case closes." On September 27th, Yes, I wrote it down. My phone rang as I was driving towards school pickup for my kids. When I answered, Nancy, fresh from a visit, didn't say hi, hello, how are you? She just said, Emily. She is reading. Now, I'm jokingly known around the office for being fairly stone-hearted, but when I tell you I cried in the car, whew, it was a moment. The 3 kids on Nancy's case are now a few months away from being adopted. Almost 6 years, a whole pandemic, 3 social workers, 4 schools, 2 states, and 10 IEP meetings later, Bridget is not falling through the cracks. This is what CASA is here for. This is what a Heart of Gold can do. And this is just one of the many things that Nancy has done. Thank you, Nancy, and congratulations on being selected for 2024's May Cook Heart of Gold Award.
Wow.